Hello, my name is Kara Angel. I will be your guide in this Ghost Tours adventures as we make our way to see what Charlotte has to offer. Now, Charlotte has four pillars which it is best known for: glory, gold, ghosts, and gore. Glory is the very foundation of Charlotte, starting with Queen Charlotte Mecklenburg-Strelitz. She was married to British King George III, and the city was named after her. She went on to bear 15 children. That fact might be the scariest thing the store has to offer. Now, gold is prevalent in two ways of Charlotte. Charlotte has the largest population of bankers outside of Wall Street. It also was one of the very first spots in the American gold rush. 17-year-old Conrad Reed found a 17-pound lump of gold. He didn't know what it was, and he liked the way it sparkled, so his family used it as a doorstop. Merchant traveling by knew what it was and offered the family $3.50 for the 17-pound lump of gold. Family agreed, thinking they could get some money out of their doorstop, and that went on to spark the gold rush in North Carolina. That is the second largest lump of gold found, so needless to say, I'm guessing the Reed family highly regretted selling that. Sad times. Ghosts are very prevalent in Charlotte. This city overlaps history, the living, the dead. It is home to ghosts who travel, but very much love the home of Charlotte. In fact, ancient Gaelic spirits have traveled to Charlotte when a bar was moved from Ireland to Charlotte. And my favorite, gore. The Taco Bell Strangler was prevalent in Charlotte. Police never caught him when he was living, and they didn't quite catch him when he was dead either. You see, the Taco Bell Strangler would eat at fast food restaurants, like Taco Bell. He would find women who would eat at these restaurants, and women who lived alone. He would follow them home, stalk them before brutally strangling them, wrapping wires or his hands around their neck and squeezing till the life went out. Now, people say he died around the early 2000s because his ghost haunts those very fast food locations. One couple went in to a fast food restaurant before they were going to see a movie. There is a lean man, baseball cap covering his face, wearing all black, and just in the corner of the Taco Bell. And he was very unsettling, just staring at them. And they went up to the cashier and they were like, "Wow, that guy is so terrifying, like just sitting in the corner." And the cashier is like, "What guy? You're the first customer to come in all night." So, yes, there are many things in Charlotte, including glory, gold, ghosts, and gore. Now, let us move on to the first stop. I shall tell you a little bit more about what Charlotte has to offer. Now, this is the First Presbyterian Church. It was founded in 1823, and it is the oldest Presbyterian church in Charlotte. During the time of the Civil War, this church was still prevalent. There's someone there named Ambrose, and Ambrose was a sexton. And a sexton is like a janitor. He would clean up after everyone, he'd roam the halls, and he was well loved by the church. He was so well loved that when the Union was going to come into Charlotte, they went to Ambrose and they're like, "Ambrose, you gotta hide all the valuables. We don't want a silver being taken. It's gotta be up to you." And he agreed. He's a good guy, and he hid all the silver and all the valuables the church has to offer in these long, winding tunnels underneath the road. And if you can see the old settler cemetery right there. So who knows how many grave sites and everything was disturbed to make these long, winding tunnels. And after the army left and peace occurred, they're like, "Ambrose, you gotta give us the valuables back." Like, go dig them up, right? He goes down in the tunnels, and he must have knocked over a support beam. Something happened. and hundreds of tons of dirt fell on top of Ambrose, crushing him, crushing the valuables, leaving him to his earthen grave. I want you to imagine for a moment what it would feel like to have tons of dirt fall on top of you, crushing your body, dirt filling your esophagus, filling your lungs, filling every crevice and crack there is. That, my friends, is what Ambrose suffered. His ghost still haunts the church today. You can often see him. He's a friendly ghost, wandering around the sites he used to walk. He doesn't talk, out of either respect or the dirt that crushed his lungs might have carried over into the afterlife. And people often mistake him as a sexton who currently works there. They would be like, hey, like, buddy, like, nice to see you. And then Ambrose would just disappear. And they're like, huh, that was a ghost. In 2012, Pastor Peary, who is the current pastor now, took over and made a statement about Ambrose. He has never personally seen Ambrose, but many members have, and he believes them. He's like, there is Ambrose here. I've never been gifted by seeing him, but there is definitely something here. Well, that was our first stop, and I showed you where the cemetery was, and we're going to go right over there, because it is time to talk about the old settler cemetery. Now, you might see a ton of names on this list. You're going to see Davidson and other prevalent names. And these are all cities. Iredell is on there. These are all cities, towns, or counties around Charlotte. They're also the names of the founders of Charlotte, the early founders who signed what is known as the MECDEC, the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, written in 1775, and this is the very first document saying, we want independence, and Congress called it way too hasty. They're like, wait on a second, we don't need independence right now, we just don't want our tea being taxed. It unfortunately caught up in flames, and was rewritten from memory 40 years later. If it did not suffer in the fire, it would have been the oldest Declaration of Independence, pretty much. And Thomas Polk, who was actually the uncle to James K. Polk, who was the 11th president, is one of the signers of this MECDEC. Now, a little bit about the cemetery. It is an early grave robbing site because medical students would pay a pretty penny to have a cadaver to work on. You couldn't really donate your body to science back then, or at least consent to having your body be donated to science. So they would pay, and they would get a cadaver, and they wouldn't ask any questions. I mean, I honestly wouldn't want to know either if somebody showed up with a dead body. I'd just be like, all right, I didn't see a thing. And while we're here, if you want to look out for a gravestone saying Louise, it's a 12-year-old who we will talk about later on in this tour, but if you see the headstone, point her out, give her a wave, say hello. Her ghost haunts elsewhere, and her body's not here anymore, but she's got a cool gravestone. We are talking about the Old Settler Cemetery today to talk about Charles Polk, the Devil Charlie. He is the son of Thomas Polk, and the cousin to the 11th President of the United States. Fact that will shock you considering how he earned the nickname the Devil. Charles, in life, was most likely extremely sociopathic, violent, and angry. He had this wonderful wife, Polly Polk, and there was one day they got into an argument. Polly Polk was cradling her infant child, and Charlie was angry. He stormed the house, muttering and cursing, and he finally knew what to do. He took his gun and shot Polly right in the head, bang! As she was still cradling their infant child. Who else could do that but the devil himself? A year after that, he had a dinner party, and he decided to lock every single window and door except one. He left the window right underneath the cellar doors, which he opened. He left that one unlocked. And he waited. The party was busy. People were having a good time, and he yelled, "Fire!" He screamed it at the top of his lungs, "Fire!" Naturally, everyone rushed to find a window that would open, and they found the one, and they would jump out it and fall smack down into the cellar. Once again, the devil strikes. Now, people had enough of Charlie and his antics, so bang, they put him down just like a dog. And just like the dog he is. Now, you might think, what does his ghost have to do with it? Well, his ghost haunts this very cemetery right now. There is a doctor named Dr. Mark Schuckler, and he would walk home from the hospital to his house. He'd walk right through the cemetery. It was a shortcut. He was like, "I don't care, I'm walking through a cemetery at night. I want to get home." One time he was walking and this black shadow seemed to be following him, and he's like, "Trick of the light. I'm a doctor, I don't believe in ghosts, and I'm just going to keep walking." And it kept following him, creeping through the gravestones, creeping in the cemetery, and then it engulfed him, and the doctor could recall the smell of the earth, the deep earth, and sulfur, and everything that just smelled rotten and dead, and covered him. He screamed and ran right out of the graveyard. And he only took the long way home from that point. He was like, "I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe that happened, but..." And he said, "I just wanted exercise, so I'm just going the long way home for exercise." But we all know that that was the devil Charlie, causing chaos, even in death. On our next stop, we will be going to the Charlotte Fire Department, station number 4. Now, this building, as you might see, is abandoned. Nobody lives in it anymore. Nobody works in it anymore due to the history and the ghosts and everything it has. It is owned by the city now, and hopefully it can be in use someday. But as of now, it just stands here in the heart of Charlotte. It was used as a fire department from the 1927 to the 70s. And city now owns it, and when it wasn't owned by the city and when it was a fire department, there was this long brass pole. Firefighters used to slide down the pole to get to their trucks faster and get ready to go, and this pole was 4 inches in diameter and 30 feet long, this long bronze pole. One day, there was a man named Pewitt Black, and he was working a double that day. Whether he needed the money or just had to work a double, who knows? And there was a call, ring, 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 in 1934. The alarms were going off. He's like, "Oh no, it's a fire." So he got out of bed, he started putting on all his heavy trousers and coats and made his way to the pole. And then he tripped. And he fell headfirst down that pole, shoo, headfirst, and smashed his skull. Crack. And he didn't even die right away. They rushed him to the hospital. Some of the firemen went to the fire. Other ones went to the hospital with Charlie. He died, or Pewitt, and he died at 10:45 a.m. next day. And, well, his ghost remains. And a lot of accidents began happening around the fire department. In fact, Joe Restridge, he died in a wreck. He was crushed between a tree and his fire truck. And there are other instances of people getting injured or even killed due to the ghost of Pewitt Black. I don't think he himself is malevolent, but the same thing that's causing his spirit to be tethered to this earth is causing this chaos to happen. And it closed down in 1970, so afterwards, Mike Lackloff moved in. 1997, he smelled cigars all the time. Moved in, he's like, "Wow, these firemen must have been smoking." Some days he would smell it, some days he wouldn't, but it was just this lingering scent of cigar smoke. And one day, after watching a Panthers game, he went and he saw a man wearing long, heavy pants and the long, bulky fireman's clothing, and he just thought, "Oh, somebody's in here, like, what's up, dude?" And then he disappeared. And that was Pewitt Black. An electrician also saw Pewitt Black. He was working on the lights, saw a figure, same heavy pants, same long thing, called out to him, and boom, disappeared. Yeah, Blacklock moved. That building is now owned by the city. But the interesting thing is that Pewitt Black had a vice. We all have our vices. And him, after a long night of working, he would smoke a cigar in the fire station. It was his favorite thing to do, is smoke a single cigar. Well, that's it for the fire department, and if we don't have any questions, let us move on. We are going to be approaching the Carolina Theater. As you can see, it's in a lot of reconstruction right now. It's being rebuilt. Just because it's being rebuilt does not mean the spirits don't remain. In fact, their home is being rebuilt and messed with. They're most likely more active right now. And this was a luxury theater. Elvis, Ethel Barrymore, Bob Hope, they've all played at this theater. It is now under reconstruction. But there's this ghost named Fred. I didn't name the ghost. Don't blame me for the name Fred. Nobody knows where Fred comes from. You know, a lot of times we get to know the grisly stories and we get to know the passion that caused these ghosts to still exist. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes there's a deep, dark mystery that lies and is unseen and unheard, and we don't know, and we might never know until maybe a body is rediscovered. And Fred the Ghost haunts the Carolina Theater. No one knows his origin. They just know he's there. He's a bit of a prankster, Fred. He likes to do some typical things, lights flickering on and off when no one's near any switch and there's nothing wrong with electrical. And the solid white figure has been seen kind of just floating around. No one can really get a grasp or a good look about who Fred is or what he looks like. But he's a little mischievous, and workers started saying goodnight to him every night. They'd just yell, "Goodnight, Fred!" And sometimes the lights would flicker in return, sometimes nothing would happen. But Fred always heard. And sometimes curtains would stick and lights would keep flickering and they'd have to yell, "Knock it off, Fred! Knock it off!" And miraculously, lights stopped flickering, things started working again. Fred allowed them to continue on their journey. And Bill Freeman, he was a former light technician for the Carolina Theater, he's a bit of a ghost magnet, because he has seen both Fred and this lady in white, this Victorian dressed lady in white, sitting down, watching the show that wasn't even going on, just watching the stage. And we know nothing about her either. The Carolina Theater is a mystery of paranormal activity. But she's there. Maybe she's a lover of Fred. Maybe a cousin of some sorts. No one knows. But what they do know is that the ghosts will always remain. Well, that is it for the tour. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you so much for choosing U.S. Ghost Adventures. Once again, my name is Kara Angel, and I have been your fabulous guide. And I hope you have a great and spooky rest of your night. Thank you.